lesson 1. We're going to jump right into this. If you haven't yet looked at the other video where I talk about tuning and the use of the metronome and finger placement and where to hold the guitar and maybe some other questions that you might have if you're first starting out, I suggest that you stop this and go take a look at that video first. Besides that, let's just get started. Okay, now we're going to start with a warm-up, and in this case I mean an actual physical warm-up. What you're going to do is you're just going to take your hand and just start to rub your hand to literally warm it up. Maybe you've been sitting at the computer all day or just haven't been using your hands at all. Maybe you're busy gardening or, geez, I don't know, anything but play guitar. This is just going to get the hands nice and literally warm the muscles up, you know, get the tendons awake a little bit, which will prevent from any injury later on. Now, you don't need to bend your fingers back and forth, but you just rub them and get a bit of flexibility. This is not yoga. We're not stretching. We're just getting everything ready to be used. All right, and especially around the wrist too, because that's usually where we run into some problems. So make sure you give that a little bit of love and warm it up. Okay. Secondly, do the same thing with this hand. The fingers maybe not as much, but I mean the saddle of your thumb, maybe because of how we're holding the pick. And then same thing with the wrist. You know, we just need to warm it because when we strum, we pronate our wrist like this, so that's important. Maybe the forearm a little bit too. Now I've already warmed up a little bit, so if you haven't yet, pause this video and just take a second or two just to rub the hands. Other than that, we're going to jump right into it. Okay, first thing we're going to do is a 4-finger exercise. Okay, again, look at the other video if you so you can understand where I talk about finger placement, because right now I'm going to assume that you have, and just jump right into it. You're going to take your first finger and it's going to go to the 5th fret of your top E string. And if you remember, what you want to do is make sure that that finger is snuggled real close to the top of that fret, not in the middle and not to the bottom, but right at the top of that fret there. Okay? This makes it easier for the other fingers to lay down. If you're just starting, you won't have a lot of flexibility. So you're going to do these other fingers a lot of favors by making sure your first finger is nice and close to the top of that fret. Now you can do this pretty much anywhere, but for our sake, we're going to start at the 5th fret. Okay, in this exercise, it's going to be 1 finger at a time. We're going to be switching strings, and we're going to be ascending the guitar, and then we're also going to be descending. By ascending and descending, that basically means we're going to be going this way to start, and then we're going to come backwards, traveling this way. And it'll all make sense in a second. So again, first finger at the 5th fret of your top E string, your 6th string, your lowest string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, snuggled right at the top. Okay. With your right hand, you're going to pick that note. Okay. Then your middle finger is going to go down, play the next fret higher, the 6th fret. And then your 3rd finger is going to go down to play the 7th fret. And then your pinky finger down on the 8th fret. So we're basically going 1 finger at a time. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th finger. Frets 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? Alright, so now once we do that, we'll try this again together. You can try to copy my speed. The better you get, the easier it will be to keep your fingers down on the fretboard, but right now they're going to want to lift up, which is okay. Nothing wrong with that. The more you play, the more they'll start to pay attention to what you needed to do. Right now, it's just starting out. We'll give it a bit of a break. So, again, with me, 1st finger, 5th fret, 6th fret, 7th fret, 8th fret. Now your first finger is going to drop down to the string below, the 5th string, the A string. Same thing. 5th fret, 6th fret, 7th fret, 8th fret. Each finger, 1 at a time. Now, guess what? We're just going to do the same thing. Move down to the next string. 5th fret, 6th fret, 7, 8. First finger moves down to the next string. Now think of switching. Your first finger is going to move down again. The first finger is going to move down again. Okay, give your hand a bit of a rest. You don't have to follow my tempo on this just yet, but for now, try your best to keep up. It's okay that if you can't, you'll get there eventually. If you remember what I said about practicing with a metronome, that's a good way to sort of track your progress. Okay, now that we've given our hand a bit of a shake, let's start again. We'll do the thing. We'll do it from the top one more time. So first finger at the 5th fret. Here we go. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I want you to keep your eyes on your left hand. Try to keep your right hand in the periphery. Okay. Look if you have to, if you're making a mistake. But right now, when you look at that left hand and think of what's coming next, that first finger is going down to the next string. So once you get to that pinky, and all that pinky is a real jerk sometimes, think of moving down to the next string. There's my pinky. Oh, doesn't want to listen. Oh. And 8. So now hold it. You can stop pressing if you want, but try to keep your position. Try to stay in the same area, because now we're going to hit rewind and we're going to go backwards. Okay, so starting with the pinky on the 8th fret of your E string, your lowest string, we're going to go backwards. 8, 7, 6, 5. We're just going backwards. So now that we've gone down that string, what's going to happen next? That pinky finger, or what's going to probably do a dance, is going to come up to the next string, the B string, and the same thing. Going backwards. Pinky finger up to the 8th fret. 8, 7, 6, 5. Same thing. Pinky finger moves up. Pinky finger moves up. And one more. Good stuff. Give your hand a bit of a shake. Now we're going to try and put that all together. Try your best to keep up with me, but if you like, follow your own tempo. But like I said before, I suggest you grab a metronome and practice along with that. For right now, it's not as big a deal. Get your fingers familiar with it, and hey, I'll stop talking. Let's just go ahead and do it. Again, first finger, 5th fret of your top E string. Your first finger snuggled nice and close to the top of that fret, so it's easier to put the other fingers down. Here we go, starting 5th fret, 6, 7, 8. Think of dropping that finger to the next string. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Drop it down to 5, 6, 7, 8. Drop it down to 5, 6, 7. Come on, pinky, you can do it. All right, tap it down to the next string. String, your first string, and hold it. 2, 3. We're going to go backwards now. Here we go. And 8, 7, 6. Think ahead. What do you got? That pinky finger, reach it over. 8, 6, 5, 7. Should learn to count. And 8, 7, 6, 5, 8, 7, 6. Look ahead. Look at that pinky finger. Where's it going? Always be looking ahead. Where's that pinky finger going? It's going up to the top string. Okay, give your hand a bit of a break and shake it off a bit. Well done. Good job. Now, if the 5th fret you find difficult as far as spreading your fingers, remember, if you've never played guitar before, there's no other reason why you've ever needed to do this in your life and spread your fingers. Like really no exercise, maybe grabbing something, but that's still different muscles. So if you find the spread is kind of difficult, just move it up to another fret. You could do it at the 7th fret. You could do it at the 9th fret. Similarly, if you've got big hands, there's nothing wrong with moving it down to the 3rd fret. This isn't really music. This is just an exercise to, one, get your fingers working independently, strengthen the muscles, build some calluses, and just trying to engage your brain with your hand to tell it that you want what you want it to do when you want to do it. Hope that made sense. Great. Okay, so let's take a bit of a break from our left hand for a second. And let me just talk for a second about using our right hand. Now, I've talked in this exercise to make sure that you look at your left hand. If you're right-handed like me, then you're fretting with your left and you're picking and strumming with your right. So for that, you want to make sure that you give all your concentration to your weak hand. And by that, I mean your visual concentration. You'll be doing yourself a big disservice if you find yourself constantly going back and forth, looking between your left hand and your right hand, your fretting hand and your picking hand. Now, if this is the hand that you write with, then chances are it's smart enough to do its job without you having to give it your visual, attention the entire time. Think a good example would be if I asked you right now to grab a pen and sign your name while looking away. I'm sure that you would have a perfect signature. If I recited something to you and asked you to write it down verbatim, I'm sure you could do it while looking at something else without actually looking at your hand. It may not be the best handwriting you've ever done, but the point is that your right hand is smart enough and knows how to do it. So let's find some ways to get you more comfortable with the right hand so that when you do concentrate on the left hand, you're not constantly thinking about, oh, am I picking the right string or not? So let's give the left hand a bit of a break. I'm going to put it away. Let's talk about some picking exercises. So I've already talked about this before. You have 6 strings on the guitar, and each string has its own note, and each note is given a letter in music. So we have E, A, D, G, B, E. E, A, D, G, B, E. Okay? You'll notice right away that the easiest thing to note is that you've got 2 E strings. You've got a low E string, which means it's low in pitch, and it's like physically the highest on the guitar, but it's low in pitch. And then you have a high E string, which is your physical lowest string. So it's a little backwards. But when we talk about your low E string, we're talking about the pitch, and that's the one that's closest to your face. And then your high E string, the one that's furthest away from your face. Okay? Again, we have E, A, D, G, B, E. Take a second and just say that out loud and try to pick each string. And this time, I'll let you look at your right hand. E, A, D, G, B, E. Okay, so one thing I might do is to practice the right hand is to tell yourself, I am going to play the A string, I'm going to play the G string, I am going to play the high E, I am going to play the low E string, all right? And then try the same thing and maybe try looking away. Give yourself, just say, I am going to play the A string. Did I play it? Yes, I did. I am going to play the G string. Did I play it? Yes, I did. I am going to play the high E string. Did I play it? No, I didn't. Let me try again. Play the high E string. I didn't. So now look. That's the high E. Look away and find it that way. Your hand will memorize using its muscles as to how far it needs to pick. So for that, you could start by looking at it, and then you'll find that you can start looking away real quickly. Again, your right hand's smart. Let's try another exercise here. Jump in strings, okay? So we're going to start at our top string, or E string, and we're going to play E, D, B. And all I'm doing is that's playing my top string, skipping over a string, and skipping over a string. E, D, B. Do the same thing starting on the A string. And that's the next lowest string, or sorry, the lowest, well, yeah, lowest in pitch. A, G, E. Skip a string, and finally on your bottom E string. Try it with me. E, D, B, A, G, E. And again, you're going to look at your hand while you do this right now. Try it again in reverse. Oh, I had a low battery. Let's try it again in reverse. E, skip a string. G, skip a string. second string or your second highest string. B, D, E. Oh, look at that, I messed that up. So we're going to try the same thing in reverse, starting on your high E string, your lowest E string right there. E, G, A, B, D, E. Okay, again, look at your hands, get used to how it feels to jump around, and so you can see it, you can visualize it. Your brain will memorize it this way. Okay, now let's try something a little bit harder. While looking at your right hand, starting on your top E string, you're going to play E, and then skip a string to D. Come back to the string that you skipped on A. Now skip a string, go to G. Come back to the string that you skipped. Play D, skip a string, play B. Come back to the string that you skipped, play G, and then E. So we're jumping a string and coming back to the one that we had skipped, and then so on and so forth. So you have E, D, A, G, D, B, G, E. All right, and then of course you can do it in reverse as well, going the other way where you're skipping a string. Now, after you've done that a few times, try not looking at your right hand. Let's try the first exercise, all right? Put your pick on the top string and look away. E, find D, and find B. All right, if you haven't done it and you find yourself making some mistakes, look at your hand, memorize it, go back, and try it without looking again. Let's try it again, starting on the A string. A, skip a string, skip a string. If you weren't successful, try it again. Look at your hand, play it looking at it, and look away. Similarly, try going backwards, which is actually a lot harder. E, G, A, then B, D, E. Then try the other exercise I tried, where you're jumping a string. E, D, A, G, D, B, G, E. Again, if you find that you're making these mistakes, just go back, look at your hand, and then look away, and just keep trying that. This is something that's very easy, and you don't need to take a lot of time to do this exercise, or the four-finger exercise for that matter. But now that we've tried that, why not jump back to your four-finger exercise and try playing it without looking at your right hand. Concentrate on your left hand only. Because what I want you to think of is what's next. I'm already on that string, but I'm switching it. I'm switching now. And think, as soon as I get to that pinky finger, I gotta switch. Same thing going backwards. On that last finger, think of switching. Switch. The big thing is my pinky finger, it's gotta move. And this is how you practice putting it into tempo. Okay, and on your own time, and with a metronome, eventually. Okay, so we've gone over some exercises to do with the left hand. We've talked about picking the strings with our right hand. I think it's only fair now that we get on to some chords. Okay, if you're new to music, a chord is when essentially a bunch of notes are played together at the same time. There's only a few instruments that can do this, and your two most popular are the guitar and the piano. And that's what makes us an accompanying instrument. Something like a flute, or a saxophone, or a single oscillating instrument. In other words, on their own, they can't play more than one note at one time. You need a group of saxophones or a group of flute to successfully do a chord. So the chords that we're going to start off with are E minor and A. So there should be a sheet accompanying this video. So go take a look at that to sort of help you out as to where the fingers are going to be. But we're going to walk through this as well. So you're going to take your first and your middle finger, right there, and pretend like they're kind of stuck together like glue. Where they're going to go is on the 2nd fret of your A and your D string. Okay, so that would be fret 1, 2. And they would go right there. Now before you press, because I don't want to tire your fingers just yet, you're going to notice that, you know, I've already made a big stink about making sure that your first finger is nice and close to the top of the fret, and that the closer you are to that fret, the nicer the sound you're going to get. But as you can see, there's really no physical way you're going to be able to get both fingers at the top of the fret. It's just not going to work, especially since we're trying to use our fingertips, not our pads. We're not trying to use our fingerprint. We're trying to get our fingertips down on those 2 strings. If we use our finger pads like that, or our fingerprint, we're going to start blocking the other strings. But what about this nonsense I'm talking about, that this first finger has to be as high up as it can be? Well, don't worry about that. You're going to accomplish that with your middle finger. Look at my middle finger. Look how high it is. It's touching that fret. So even though this first finger is a little bit lower, I'll still get a good sound out of that, no matter what. All right, so again, you're going to press down with your fingertips. It doesn't have to be a tiger claw, like anything like that, but first finger down on the second fret of A, middle finger down on the 2nd fret of D. Your other strings are open. Open meaning that there aren't any fingers on them. So my E string is open, and my G string is open, my B string is open, and my high E is open. Okay? It may be a little awkward at first to keep these fingers out of the way, but out of the way of the open strings, particularly the G string, but that's going to come with strength and practice and as you build calluses. Anyways, back to the chord. So, first finger on 2nd fret, middle finger on 2nd fret of your A and D. They're nice and tight together. Your middle finger's nice and close to the top of the fret. Press with all your might, and with your right hand, you're going to strum. All right? Maybe your fingertips hurt a little bit right now because it's the first time doing this. Just shake it off and let's try it again. Okay? Put your fingers down, 2nd fret, just like this. Middle finger nice and high. And with the right hand, we're going to strum. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, give your hand a bit of a rest. We do it again. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want you to put your fingers back in that E minor position, okay? And we don't need to press right now, but keep your fingers there. I'm going to talk about going to the A chord. All right, if you take a look at that sheet that accompanies this, you'll see that the A chord and E minor have sort of 2 fingers in common. And by what I mean by that is that your 1st and 2nd finger are all going to be on the 2nd fret. They're going to be on different strings, but they're still being used essentially in the same area. So this is the movement. You're on your E minor. You're going to take these 2 fingers, which I've said are stuck together like glue, and you're going to move them down 1 string each. So I started on the 5th and the 4th string, A and D, the 2nd fret, and I moved them down. So now my first finger is on the 2nd fret of D, and my middle finger is on the 2nd fret of G. Okay, so that's the first movement. You're in E minor, and you move it down a string. Now then there's this finger is going to join them and be added on the 3rd fret of the B string. And now what changes in the right hand is that now we strum 5 strings instead of all 6. We don't play the high E string. So you're going to put your pick at the 5th fret, on top of the 5th string of A, and you're going to strum down. That might be a little bit harder to accomplish, but as long as your finger's in the right area, you'll notice that your first finger is lowered quite a bit. And for that, it means it's got to work that much harder and press that much harder to get a sound. But let's try that movement again. Okay, start on the E minor and move your fingers down and then add the 3rd. And try to do it in that order. Eventually, your fingers are just going to go all at the same time. But right now, the priority is moving those 2 fingers down, then adding the 3rd finger. Let's take that chord and strum it 4 times. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Excellent. I'm going to start a bit of a tempo here. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. And you can take your hand off, give it a rest, but try to follow my tempo. Find that E minor. Put your first and second finger down. Strumming all the strings. E minor, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Give it a rest. But now find your A chord. If you've already found it, here we go. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, your third finger disappears. Your first and middle, move up a string. Back to E minor. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to move it down. Down a string. Add in the third. 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, you're not strumming all the strings with this hand at that time. Just the 5. Give your hand a bit of a rest. Shake it off. Okay? It's okay if you can't keep up with me at this point. But let's just say, just try to follow me as best I can, okay? We're gonna strum for 4, and we're gonna take 4 beats to move to the next chord, all right? So by the time I get to 4, your hand should be ready to go onto the next chord. So here we go. Start on E minor, first and second finger on the second fret of your A and your D string, strumming all the strings. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right now, move those 2 fingers down. Add the third. 3, 4. Strumming 5 strings. 2, 3, 4. Keep an eye on that left hand, though. Move those 2 fingers up. Let's not forget that. Forgetting to remind you guys. Keep your eyes locked on that left hand. Tell it what to do. Move those 2 fingers down. Add the third. 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. Let go of that third. Move those 2 fingers up. 3, 4. Keeping my eyes on my left hand. One more time. Moving it down. Don't look at the right. Add the third. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now rest. Okay, give your hand a bit of a shake there. All right. I hope that you guys got something out of this. The way that you should probably look at this is more like a module. Don't be afraid to come back and visit this lesson again, all right? This isn't P90X where you need to keep doing every lesson at the same time. If you and I were in person, what I would end up doing would be I'd probably touch on this lesson a few times before even going on. More like adding a little bit each time, just to get it rolling. Sadly, we don't have that. We don't have that luxury in this sort of interaction. But at the same token, if you find that some of this stuff is maybe you're advancing it a little fast, there's nothing wrong with going on to the next lesson. There are other videos that you can use, that you can look at that are some of these exercises, but maybe a little bit accelerated, sort of like some play-alongs. Don't forget to use a tuner, and don't forget to get a metronome as a way to sort of track your progression so that you start keeping your stuff in time. Look at that introductory video if you haven't yet, and best of luck. This was a lot of fun. I look forward to seeing you guys at the next lesson. All the best, and good luck.